Hello and welcome everyone to this week's episode of the podcast. And I hope you're having a lovely start to 2025. So, in this episode, we're going to be talking about 10 things that I wouldn't do if I was starting a jewelry business in 2025. So, if I was starting a jewelry business right now, or even if I was at the early stages of a jewelry business, these are things that I might be tempted to do, but that I would knowing what I know about jewelry businesses, that I wouldn't choose to do. And to be honest, this could apply to lots of businesses. And whilst I am not starting a jewelry business right now, I am starting a new jewelry school, which is a business. So I can relate to a lot of these kind of topics. But I've focused it really on jewelry businesses, and hopefully it will help people who are both starting out, but also those of you that are further along in your journey, as a reminder of some of the things that can creep in, some of the perhaps habits or ideas or thought patterns that can be unhelpful to growth in ourselves, in our businesses, and how we can just bring ourselves back to a much more positive space and something that's going to be much more helpful for our growth. So I love doing these solo episodes because I get to spend a whole bit of time with you, kind of going through some thoughts, some ideas, and it helps me, and hopefully it will help you as well. So we're just going to get straight into it. So the first thing that I wouldn't do is I wouldn't wait until I had a perfect collection of jewelry to launch. So this is something that I see a lot and I can relate to in myself as well, is the perfectionism in us. And that will come up a few times in these sort of 10 ideas. And this idea that we can't launch our business until we have the perfect jewelry. And I think there's a real middle ground to find here, where we do want to have a little body, a little collection of work, but it doesn't need to be the be and end all, because we're going to keep adding to it. We're going to keep editing. We're going to keep changing as we go through. So I always set myself the task when I am starting a business or I'm starting a project like this, to kind of say, okay, how many pieces am I going to make? And usually for me, it's around 12. That's a nice number for like a little collection to launch with. It's still quite a lot, especially if those pieces are taking, days to make each. But it could be somewhere between 8, 12. For some of you who are perhaps doing beaded pieces, it might be a little bit more because sometimes they're quicker. Depends if you're using seed beads, maybe not. But roughly around 12 pieces, and a collection. So something that works well together so that people who see the pieces can understand that they are all my work. So not too much of the what we sometimes call the jumble sale effect, where it's just like a bit of everything, but kind of focus and honing in on a particular style. It doesn't need to be the style you're going to have forever. And saying, okay, I've got these pieces and I'm just going to go for it. And I'm going to put myself out there and I'm going to launch the business and I'm going to get it going. And in the startup world, which is kind of where a lot of my training was when I was starting a jewelry business, when I was starting a London Jewelry School, like many, many years ago, there's this idea of an MPV, which means MVP, sorry, which means minimum viable product. And the idea behind it is that when you're starting a new business, you want to get the quickest, easiest, viable version of what you can do out there as quick as possible, because you're then testing the waters. You're starting to build customers. You're starting to see what it's like running this business. You'll be able to make changes and edits and you'll be able to grow. Whereas I think what a lot of us can do is think, well, I'll wait until I'm good enough. I'll wait until my jewelry's good enough. I'll wait until I've got this perfect collection that's exactly the vision of what I want it to be. And then I'll start running the business. So I would really encourage you to be brave, be bold, and just get the version out there that you've got. And I've seen this happen so many times with jewelers who are doing this, and it's wonderful to watch, where they'll get something out and they know, it's the best that they can do at the time. They know they want growth. They know they want to improve their skills. But they start building connections. They start sharing on social media. They start talking to other jewelers. They start building their networks. And then 6 months later, perhaps they've got another collection and it's a little bit more sophisticated, or there's some more techniques in there. And then a year later, there's another one. And then you just see that growth. And actually, it's so lovely to watch that growth as both a customer and, a fellow kind of part of the community. So that's my first kind of thing that I wouldn't do, or would try and avoid doing as much as I could, is set myself a little project for what I'm going to make perhaps in the first quarter of the year, and then just get it out there and just go for it and trust that it's gonna change. It's going to ebb and flow. And I think this applies as well to jewelers who've been doing it for a long time, because sometimes there can be that pressure of, I've had a really successful collection, so what's next? How am I going to build on it? How am I going to make my next pieces even better? And sometimes they're not even better. Sometimes they're just a little bit different, or they're just a progression, or even just more of the same. So it's kind of seeing where you go with that and trusting that the growth will come naturally with those types of creative processes. So that's the first one. The second thing I wouldn't do is I wouldn't try and set up multiple online sites at once. So I wouldn't try and build a website, build an Etsy store, build a folksy store, maybe go on the high street, maybe sell on all these different places, because it's building lots and lots of different places to sell, but all of those places we need to manage. And it's kind of the opposite of what's going to help us grow. So generally speaking, one of the key things that we need for growth is to focus on one area that we can really put some effort and energy into for a period of time. And then we gradually add in other areas. If you're sort of thinking, well, which one do I go with? Where do I start? How do I know? It almost doesn't matter where you start selling, as long as you have somewhere and you just go for it. I often say Etsy is quite a good starting point, because they do have templates and they've got a system. If you're not feeling that confident with technology and building a website yourself, this can be a really easy, quick win. Some people do really well on Etsy and run their whole businesses on Etsy, and it can be great for them. Most jewelers that I know will come off Etsy within a couple of years, because there's some limitations there in terms of fees that they're charging, in terms of how they run their business, in terms of like contact with customers, reviews, all of that kind of stuff. On your own website, you have a lot more control over that. So generally speaking, we want to build our own websites. We want to create a space where people will come to us. Generally speaking, when people have bought from Etsy, they'll say, where's that piece of jewelry from? And they'll say, oh, it's from Etsy, rather than it's from this jewelry brand. Whereas if they're coming to your website, they'll say it's from this jewelry brand. So there's a stronger connection with you when people buy from your own website. So that is kind of where we want to be. But going back to point one, and just that getting yourself out there, just going for it, taking those first steps. A website is a big project. So a platform like Etsy, there's other ones out there too, is often a good place to start. But the most important thing is, don't feel the pressure to build it in all these different places, because you're going to spend all your time doing that. And as a jewelry business owner, you wear many hats, as you all know. You need to do lots of different things. It's a very varied role, which is one of the things I love about it. But it also means that we have to be quite careful with our time and not spend too much time on one area and neglect the others. I would just pick one place online and go for that. The third thing that I wouldn't do, and this one's a tricky one, but I wouldn't put lots of pressure on myself to make a profit, especially in the first year, and especially in the first 3 years. So most businesses in any industry take at least 3 years to turn a profit, and jewelry is no different to that. It takes time. It takes time to build customers. It takes time for people to trust you, to know you, to like you, to, understand your jewelry, to come and see your collection, to think about what they want to buy. All of these things take time. So it can be very easy, especially in the first year when we're excited and we want to get going, and we also want to test that this is going to work. We're looking at the figures and thinking, is money coming in? Am I making money here? And a jewelry business, a lot like a jewelry school, I might add, it's very costly in the beginning. You're just spending money. So you're spending money on your tools. You're spending money on your materials. You're spending money on your training. And this is normal. And this is what a jewelry business needs at the beginning. But it's scary because you think, well, where's the income coming in? Especially if you're used to working in a job where you get a paycheck, you do work, you get a paycheck. That's how it comes back quite quickly. Whereas in a jewelry business, and like I said, this is most businesses, so we're not alone in this. We have to spend, we have to take those risks, we have to put ourselves out there. And it takes, like I said, often many years for it to come back. But the good news is once it does come back and you have built those customer relationships and you do have a brand that people know and like and trust, generally speaking, you do have to keep doing your marketing and your work, but generally speaking, that those people come back time and time again and you have your customers. So, it becomes a lot easier, basically, is what I'm saying. It's a lot easier later down the line once you've built that customer base, because you can focus more on developing your product range, your customer service, different types of things. At the beginning, our focus is, how can we get ourselves out there? How can we speak to people? How can we let people know that we exist? So, the third one is really about pressure. And, whenever we have pressure on ourselves, it's really unhelpful. And I know this because I always put a lot of pressure on myself when I'm doing something new. I'm like, come on, it needs to work. I need to go quickly. And I have to really be mindful of that and be like, it's okay. It's going to take time. We're going to enjoy the journey. It's going to lead somewhere, and, kind of trusting that what the work that you're doing now is going to be paying off in the long run in many different ways, not just financially, but including financially. So that was number 3. Okay, number 4. Let me just check. I think that was that was number 3. Number 4, I would not make things that I think will sell, but that I don't enjoy making. So this is definitely a trap that I fell into for a while in my jewelry business. All I wanted to do was make stuff and make a living. And so I started making things that other people wanted, that my customers wanted. And again, there's a balance to be struck here. So it is definitely good to listen to customer feedback, to make some adjustments, to understand, who our audience are and what they're looking for. But often, and I see this again with lots of jewelers, we can start making something because it's something that we've learnt. And people are like, oh, I love that. Yes, I want to buy that. And then we make more of it. And then more people want to buy it. And we get a bit further down the line and maybe we've made 100 of these things and we didn't really enjoy making it to begin with. So what we put out there, what we show to the world, whether it's on social media, at events, craft fairs, what we're wearing, wherever, that's what people are going to think that we do. So if we keep putting that out there, they're going to keep asking for it. So I think it's really important to start the making process with you, with what you love, with what you enjoy, to really lead from that place of passion, because that's really what I think people are buying. Yes, they see a product that they like and that is what they're buying. But what they're really buying, especially when they come to a handmade jeweler, is your love of what you're doing, because that is put into everything that you're doing. So you can really tell when someone loves making things, and you can really tell when they've put their heart and soul into their collection, because it has this energy around it that is just, to me, it's like joy. It's like they love it. They've made something that they love. You love it. And then there's this whole interaction, which is just makes everyone feel better. So that's kind of the energy that we're going after. And when we're making stuff because we have to make it, because we're told to make it, there's nothing wrong with that. But if we keep going down that path, it can really stifle our own creativity. It can confuse us because we're sort of thinking, is this what I want? Is this not what I want? And the whole point in starting these jewelry businesses is to follow your own passion. So we won't do it perfectly, but to the best of our abilities, kind of looking inside ourselves, finding what it is we enjoy making a decision, going for it, and then start attracting people who want that. And social media can be tricky for this, because sometimes when we're looking online and we're seeing lots of other jewelers doing things, we can start comparing and feeling, oh, maybe I should put more gemstones in my work because that's what this person liked, or maybe I should be working with gold because that's what these people like. But I actually really love something totally different. I love geometric clean lines and I love silver or whatever it is. Trusting that what you love is something that other people will love. And that's how you'll build your own little community, and you'll build the people that will be attracted to you for the right reasons. And you'll enjoy the business. It will give you energy and you'll want to keep going. Whereas when we start going down that path of making things because we think people will buy it, we can become resentful. We don't enjoy going to make because we think, oh, I've got to make another one of these. Now, sometimes there are some occasions where we think, okay, I'm going to do this for my bread and butter because I know it's working whilst I build the things that I want. But as long as we're really keeping that vision and that focus on what we want to create top of mind, that's really important. So yeah, I wouldn't make things that I think will sell, but I don't enjoy making. Hopefully not too much anyway. Okay, number 5 is I would try my best not to be too shy or humble and hope that my customers will come to me. So this is something that I see in jewelry designers a lot is we make our pieces, we put all of our effort and love into that, and then we just sort of almost are like quite insular and don't want to share it and don't want to say good things about it. It can be quite a British thing as well, I suppose, of sort of like, oh, I couldn't possibly boast about my work. But actually, to run a business, we do need to be a little bit tenacious. We do need to put ourselves out there. Sometimes we need to be a little bit cheeky and ask for things that feel a little bit uncomfortable. So really just channeling that inner confidence, I suppose. And, it's so much easier to sell something if it's somebody else's. So if you were trying to sell a collection or some jewelry that somebody else had made, I'm sure many of us would do a great job of it. We'd be able to talk about what was beautiful about it, why it looks so nice. We'd be able to talk about the skills that the designer has. We'd be able to talk about the materials and what we love about those. We'd be able to talk about the values behind the business. We'd be able to share why it looks good on the customer. All of these things will become quite easy when we're talking about someone else's work. When it's our own, it can get more complicated. We think, is it a good idea to share it in that way? And the answer is yes, it is. And there are ways that you can do it that you can start to feel comfortable with. So it's about building your confidence in what you're making. And that comes back to a point before where we were talking about making things that you love. So I always find it really easy to sell stuff that we do at Jewelers Academy because I really believe in what we do. I know that the courses that we make are amazing. I know the tutors are incredible. I know the students are going to love it. So I always feel really confident. If I was trying to sell something that I didn't believe in, I would find that really hard. In fact, I just don't think I could do it. I'm not like a salesperson. I just love this so I can sell it. And it's the same with our work. We need to channel the part of us that believes in it, that loves it, that enjoyed it. And when we can focus on that, customers are really attracted to that. And and that thing of like, they're not just going to find us, we've got to put ourselves out there. Sometimes we have to be a little aggressive with our marketing. Sometimes we do have to annoy people a bit. Sometimes we have to bother people a bit, and that's okay. People have their own choices. They can choose whether they open emails, they can choose whether they look at social media, they can choose whether they like you or not. And it's okay if they don't, because it's really about finding your customers and finding the people that relate to you and how you like to engage with people in all the different places that you're going to be selling. So yes, I would not be too shy or humble and hope that people would come to me. I would put myself out there and just channel that inner, confidence and just go for it. Okay, next up, I've forgotten the numbers, but we're just going to keep going. There may be a couple more than 10, but there's a few more points. So next up is I would not let perfectionism stop me from making progress. And we've already touched on this in a few places. So with our collections, kind of being like, okay, this is good enough. We can get started with this. But it applies to the business as a whole. It can be so easy when you're starting a new project to feel like everything you do needs to be the best version that you can do of it. And actually, it's the opposite. It's almost like we want to prototype your business. We want to get a prototype of it out there so we can then gradually work through the other areas. So, the Jewellery Business Academy, which is the program that we are working on together this year, and you guys, if you haven't signed up already, now is the perfect time to join because the deadline is this Friday, which is very, very soon. And then it won't be open again. And we're working together for the whole year. We work through each month a different theme. And the reason why we've structured in this way, because really you want to spend roughly a month in your jewelry business on each area each year. And then you come back to the same areas and pretty much spend another month on them again. So, for example, in February, we're going to be looking at branding. It's a really nice time of the year to look at branding because it's kind of, we're coming into spring. There's new ideas coming. It's not too busy. Usually February for jewelers, it's like a kind of steady, stable month. And it's a nice time to kind of explore things around branding, like your values, looking at the visual aspect of your business. So the colors, your logo, your typography, your images, your videos, how you're displaying yourself. Branding is so important for jewelry businesses because it isn't just the visuals, but it really encompasses everything that you're about. And it makes customers feel that they understand who you are. It makes them feel connected to you. It makes them feel confident about buying from you. Like there's just so much tied up in that. So we will spend the whole month working on branding, which sounds like a long time. But then the other thing is at the end of the month, we will move on and we will work on something different for the next month. And when I say not letting perfectionism get in the way of growth, this is what I mean is kind of picking up something, a topic, focusing on it for a period of time so we make some real progress, but then saying, okay, now we move on because we've got lots of other things to look at as well. So using branding as an example, it can be very easy at the beginning of running a business to think, I need the perfect logo, I need the perfect business name, how do I choose my colors, what if I get them wrong, I need the perfect packaging, whereas actually none of that's true. And the first year, we just need something. We need a name. It almost doesn't matter what it is. We'll probably change it later, and that's absolutely fine. We might not, but it's fine if we do. We need a logo just so that we can start getting it up and out there. We need to look at the colors. We need to get something so that we can move forwards. But almost every jewelry business will rebrand within the first 1 to 2 years of their lifespan. So it doesn't matter too much because you don't know enough about your customers yet. You don't know enough about your products. You're still in that kind of experimental phase where we're not quite sure where it's going to go. So we just do our best effort that we have at the moment, trusting that we can always update, we can always evolve. I know that brands in my businesses have evolved a lot over time. Some of them have lasted longer. Some of them have needed lots of refreshes because it wasn't quite right. And you can build a huge business on a terrible brand if you need to, but we won't do that. But you can start with something, kind of letting go of that perfectionism. And it's the same in every area. Pricing. When we do our best, we try and get it right. It may not be perfect. We're going to learn as we grow. Our making, just everything. So, and I'm sure a lot of us can relate to this because most jewelers are perfectionists. That's what makes us good at jewelry making. We look at all the details, we find all the imperfections, and we try and make them, as smooth or beautiful as possible. So the real challenge is how to see them and leave them. And be like, there's not more time to do that now. We'll come back to it next time. Not necessarily in your pieces, leaving scratches, but, in your business, seeing imperfections and saying, that's good enough for now. I'm going to move forward and we'll come back to it. Trusting that coming back is really important. And that's why in our training programs with the Business Academy, we do the same topics every year. But when you come back to it, you're a different person. You're in a different place. Your business has moved along by a whole 12 months. So you know so much more now and you'll be able to address it differently. So that's a little bit on how that works. And just while I'm on the Jewellery Business Academy topic, I will make sure I put the link in the show notes. And if you would like to join us, like I said, the deadline is this week. After that, there will be no Jewellery Business Academy for a while. So if you want to grow your jewellery business this year, or you want to start one, that is going to be the best way that we can help you. And I'm very excited about it. I know lots of people are in the academy already. I think we've got around 400 of us so far. And it's a wonderful community because it's all people who are dedicated and focused and who have invested in growing their business. So they're coming with the energy. They want this. And we're going to work together and really make some real growth happen this year. Brilliant. Okay, back to my list of things that we're not going to do. So number 7, or it could be 8, could be 9. We'll let go of perfectionism with the numbers. Is I am not going to do everything myself. So this is a hard one because, again, when we're starting something new, we usually are doing everything ourselves. But trusting that when we invest, when we kind of really commit to doing what we want to do in our business, and when we can outsource when we need to, and it will be different for all of us, that is when the growth is really going to happen. So there's lots of things that a jeweler can outsource. One of the main ones, and one of the ones I often recommend, is photography. Now, you might not outsource all your photography, but getting some professional photographs done of your work, especially if you've made this little collection and you're putting it out there to the world, it can be a really nice idea to get it photographed, because then you have that professional photography that you can use everywhere on your websites, on any printed materials, on any banners that you use for craft fairs or events. If you're applying to anything, you've got some professional photography whilst you're learning your own photography skills, because that can take time as well. It can take a couple of years to really understand how to photograph jewelry, and that's an investment. You need time, energy, money to buy the cameras or things, unless you're using your phone, which can also work too. So yeah, photography is one area. Another area might be something like accountancy. If you struggle with finances and you want to kind of outsource that area, it could be things around copywriting. It could be someone helping you with your website. There's any number of things that you may choose to outsource. In your making, you may choose to outsource things such as getting things cast and having multiples. You may end up doing things like laser cutting so that you can have multiples of pieces there. You may end up having someone do your stone setting. You may end up having someone do engraving. So there is no shame and there is nothing wrong with outsourcing elements of your business. In fact, as you grow, it will be an essential part of what you do. So that can start as early as needed. Now, I know when we're first starting out, it's a good idea to try and do as much as we can by ourselves. But if you get stuck on something, if there's an area that's holding you back, sometimes it's really worth it to say, okay, do you know what? I'm just going to get someone to help me with this, because we can move forwards a lot quicker. So we either need to spend time or we need to spend money on our business. And often we'll need a little bit of both. But if we're spending a long, long time trying to figure something out that we can outsource to a freelancer, perhaps for a couple of hours, they could get it done for us, then that is a wise decision. So I wouldn't do everything myself in my jewelry business, and I would seek help when I needed it. And the other area of that is not just about outsourcing, but it's about community. And that's really why Jewelers Academy exists, is so that we can be here for each other. So even if you are doing everything yourself, that you don't feel alone with it, that if you have struggles, you can come and share them with other people going through similar things. So inside the Facebook group, particularly in the Jewelry Business Academy Facebook group, where it's a small group of people who are all working towards the same goal of growing a business and who have invested. So they're going to show up differently to necessarily the free spaces. Although those of you that can't join, there are free spaces as well. There's a free Facebook group too. So really reaching out for help, perhaps going to local networking groups or developing relationships with other people who are starting and growing businesses. I know there can be a lot to do, so we have to try be careful to avoid becoming overwhelmed. But feeling like you're not alone is really important, because running your own business can be lonely if you don't reach out for help, if you don't connect with people, and if you don't build those relationships. So I find Instagram is a great place for this, for connecting with other jewelers, for chatting with people, for checking in how everyone's doing, for starting those conversations. Facebook groups can also be amazing, as well as those in-person kind of events. I find that in-person events are good. They tend to be less specific around running a jewelry business. So they might be more sort of like women in business or just local people in business, but they can also be nice places to just connect with some people too. So you are not alone in this journey for sure. Brilliant. Okay, the next thing, and we are getting through the list, well done for staying with me, is I would not play it safe. So part of your job description as running a business, as a business owner, is to take risks. And I know for some people, they've never really had to take risks in their working life before. If you've always had the same job or a stable job, it can feel really uncomfortable to take risks, to spend money that you don't know if you're going to get back, to go on training courses that you don't know if you're going to be any good at, to start a business that you don't know what's going to happen with it. It can be terrifying. It can bring up anxiety. It can bring up doubt, feeling like, am I making the wrong decisions? And the truth is, all of it will be what you make of it. So if you decide, and this is what I tend to do, is I just decide, like, I'm just going to keep doing this until it works. And a good example of that in my kind of career is London Jewellery School took about 10 years to be financially successful. It was very successful almost immediately in terms of numbers and people coming in and being busy and being big and being like a lot of work. But in terms of like being able to pay people well and myself well, it took about a decade. So that was 10 years of my life that I worked on something that a lot of people wouldn't keep working on because financially it wasn't really doing what it should have been. But I think when you work from a place of love and from a place of passion, and if it's something you really want to do, in my mind, there wasn't another option. This is like my calling. This is what I do. So I was just going to keep doing it and trust that one day it was all going to work out. And actually it did. And it kind of was working out, but it's not always easy. So I think when you, and again, it's all kind of interlinked, isn't it? So when you make the stuff that you love, and you do something from a place of passion, and you decide within yourself that you're going to make it work, and you're going to find a way, and you're going to be creative, and you're going to find creative solutions when you need to, and you're going to keep taking risks from that place of uncertainty, which is really hard. But when you get into that mindset of like, this is the job, this is my job, to take risks. It's part of the job description. We write in the Business Academy, we write our job descriptions. And one of the things is we are risk takers. Not, I'm not saying do crazy things, although sometimes I do crazy things. But, sort of assessing the risk and being like, okay, I don't know if this is going to work, but I'm going to try it. And speaking to people about things is a good idea. For example, if you're taking up a big stand at a fair and it's going to cost a lot of money, that's a big risk. Are you going to make it back? It can be a good idea to talk to other people who've done those types of things. And the truth is, probably you won't make it back, but you might make it back in the long run. In the full length of your business, it may pay dividends, but perhaps in that weekend, it won't. So it's getting that kind of context and that understanding is really important too. But yeah, playing it, if we always play it safe, then it's very difficult to grow from that space. We do need to keep going outside of our comfort zone, trying new things. And this is what I see you guys doing all the time, especially people like on the diploma programs, they're constantly pushing themselves every week, a new challenge, a new task, something they've not done before, something that's hard. And the same in the business programs, people saying, I'm taking this new stand at this new event. I'm taking up this new role. I'm launching this new collection. I'm trying a new online launch. I'm starting a shop, I'm, doing all these things. And I think it's amazing. And I think that we all have it within us to do it, even if you've never in your whole life done anything like that before. And even if no one in your family has and nobody around you has, like there's always the possibility. This is why I love saying your potential is limitless. It's a really lovely affirmation because there's always the possibility to try something new, to do something different, to take a risk, and to trust yourself. If it doesn't work, we figure it out. Lots of things don't work. We figure them out as we go along. And you only need one of the things to work. I found this in business that if you try 10 things and 9 of them don't work, but one of them works, then it was worth doing all of the ones that didn't work for that one. Because when you get that one thing that works, something just clicks. And I see this in jewelers as well a lot, where they just their business skyrockets because they found perhaps it's a product that people really love and it's kind of gone viral. Or perhaps it's like a connection with customers, or perhaps it's that they started finding a place to sell that's really aligned with who they are and people are just running to them because they love what they're doing in that space. So take the risks, go for it. And I would encourage you to find one thing this year that you are scared of that you are going to do anyway in your jewelry business, and kind of commit to, maybe you don't know what it is yet, but when it comes along, when the opportunity comes along, saying, I'm just going to go for it, because it doesn't matter. The truth is, it doesn't matter whether it works or it doesn't. What matters is that you have it within you to go for it. And when you keep practicing, when you keep using that muscle of being like, I'm going to try, I'm going to give it a go, it will build and it will grow. And soon you'll be able to do it and be like, well, we'll see what happens. And maybe you're already there, in which case that is awesome as well. Okay, next one. Another really important one. I love all of these. This is a great reminder at the beginning of the year. I would not undercharge for my work in order to get my initial customers through the door. And this is so tempting to do because we think, I don't have any customers yet. Maybe I can undercharge and then people will come to me. And then at some point in the future, when I feel more confident, I can increase my prices. Now, the main issue with this, there's many issues with this. The main one for the growth of your business is you will get the wrong customers through the door if you undercharge. And you will then need to do the work of getting rid of them. And then you'll need to get your new customers. So it's actually going to create way more work for you. So if you have done this, don't feel bad, because most of us do it. But I really want to encourage you to start bold, to start strong, to start pricing where you want to end up pricing. Now, of course, if you are still working on your skills, then it may take you longer to make a piece. So you may have to charge a little bit less. So there's strategic pricing around where you're at, but the actual finished piece shouldn't cost less. So for example, let's say you're making a bezel set ring, and let's say one jeweler can make it in an hour, and one jeweler can make it in 3 hours, but it's the exact same ring at the end. And you know that it only takes 3 hours because you haven't quite got there yet with your skills and you need to practice. Then the ring at the end should cost the same. So the hourly rate for the jeweler that takes 3 hours might be 3 times less than the jeweler that takes 1 hour. I hope that makes sense. It's a very rough and crude analogy, but it's saying that wouldn't be undercharging, because you're just understanding where you're at and you're going to grow and you're going to be able to get to the space where you can make it quicker. But we don't want to undercharge for our work. That is the bottom line. And we do have lots of training on pricing, and we have downloadable spreadsheets and all of those things to help jewelers if they are struggling with their pricing. But essentially, your pricing needs to account for your time. It needs to account for your materials. You need to have profit in the business to be able to grow. It's a whole topic. There's so much we can talk about with pricing. We will cover it more in the podcast this year. And of course, in the Jewellery Business Academy, we have a whole month focused and dedicated to pricing, which I'm always excited to get to, because we get to really get into it and divide and conquer a little bit. Talk about pricing for fine jewelry, which is different to pricing for perhaps your everyday jewelry. how you might price for commissions, pricing when you're working with gold and gemstones. But also there's lots of nuances in pricing as well. So it's one of my favorite topics to get into. So I'm excited that we're going to be able to delve deeper into that later in the year as well. One thing at a time. We don't have to do this all at once. But yeah, my initial point was I would not undercharge for my work to get those initial customers in, because like I said, we get the wrong people in. So we end up with the bargain hunters when actually we want to attract people who want to buy what we're selling for the price that we're selling it for. So it's better to have less customers and that slow growth, build it just sustainably, than to get a sudden rush and then they all kind of fall away and we haven't actually really built that longevity in our business. Okay, I think I've got 2 more. So I'm sure there's more than 10 here, but anyway, it's all good. I would not overcomplicate things with needing to learn everything. So I think, especially at the start of the year, there can be this pressure to learn about everything. Like this year, it's AI. We all need to know everything there is to know about AI. That's the kind of internet pressure I feel. Sometimes it's like Google Analytics, Google Ads, Facebook ads, Instagram ads, Pinterest, email marketing, Instagram, like every type of marketing thing possible, starting a podcast, starting a YouTube channel. And it's like, how many hours do you have in the week? And if you're a one person business, primarily with a little bit of outsourcing, it's just not going to happen. And I often like to share, people often look at Jeweller's Academy business and they're like, how do you do it all? And I always share that I don't do it all. There is a team of us. There is a big team of us. So even this podcast, I will record it. Someone will edit it. Someone else will write the show notes. Someone else will help me share it on social. There'll be like 6 people involved in sharing this podcast. So it can be very easy to look at bigger businesses or other businesses and say, well, they're doing all of this, so I need to do all of that. And the great thing about most of the businesses that we're running, they're called micro businesses. They're usually primarily run by one person from home, perhaps from a studio. You're making and selling things. There's not huge volume. I know some of you are a little bit bigger than that, and some of this applies as well. But it's essentially, we need to be really careful with our time. So we may only have 2 hours a week to do our marketing in, for example. So I just want to take the pressure off and say, you do not need to learn everything there is to learn about AI. You do not need to start a YouTube channel. You can do these things. And and if you want to, go for it. But people have been running businesses for a really long time without these things, and it's very possible for you to do the same. And it always comes back to the fundamentals of, do you have a good product that you love and feel confident about? That's your jewelry. And yes, you do. And we're building it even more every day. Do you have customers and an audience? And the answer is either yes, or you're going to work on building it. And you don't need loads of complicated methods for doing that. You usually need one key social media channel to be able to do some email marketing to follow up with people, and to do some in-person events so that you can meet some people in real life. Generally speaking, that is a good starting point. Maybe some blogging on the side to have a little bit of SEO. So keeping things really streamlined in your business, really focused, and trusting that it is enough. And then if you've got all that covered and you're feeling confident and you've got some extra time, why not play around and learn some new tools and learn some new things? Because they can be fun, they can help save time, and they can be useful. But if you're new, just stripping all of that away and focusing on what's in front of me, what's the next thing, is really going to help. So there is no pressure to learn everything at once. Okay, last one, last but not least, number 10, which is probably about 12, 11. I would not hold back any longer from achieving my dreams due to fear or circumstance. So I think this is a big one for a lot of us. It can be easy to feel like, I will do this next year. Well, I will do this when I'm in a good position. When everything's, I'll start my business when ... fill in the blank. And the truth is, there's never a great time to start a business. We're always busy. Most of us will have jobs. Some of us will have children. Some of us will have other people we care for. Some of us just looking after ourselves is a full-time job. Like, some of us have animals. Like, some of us are trying to buy a house or trying to find somewhere to live. There's always something going on. So I would encourage you to build this business if you want to from today. Just wherever you're at from today, this is the first day of moving forward and building the business. And it doesn't have to be quick. Sometimes it's quick, sometimes it's slow, and that's okay. You know, the pacing is totally flexible, but don't hold back, because it takes a long time to build these things. And if you start later, it's just going to mean everything is later. And we don't want to have regrets and think, I wish. So many people have said to me, I wish I started this sooner. I wish I knew about this before. I wish I'd found this passion. You know, I was very lucky. I found this passion when I was 19, and I've been doing it ever since. That is just luck. I just stumbled across it. But whenever you stumble across it and whenever you find it, that is when you get to start this journey. And don't wait, you know, even if it's just baby steps, make a move forward. And that's circumstance, but also fear. Fear can hold us back. What if I'm not good at it? What if it doesn't work? What if I don't make a profit? What if other people are judging me in some sort of way? And the truth is, probably all of that will happen. There'll be days where you don't feel good enough. There'll be days where you're not making a profit. There'll be days when you're being judged. That's going to happen anyway, whatever you do. So you may as well do the thing that you really want to do and just go for it. And honestly, people can be so lovely, especially on social media. People can be so supportive, so encouraging. I see this with jewelers supporting each other, and other makers supporting each other. People just saying, oh my gosh, you made that. That's amazing. I love it. And customers, the same, can be so lovely. So start to think about all of the positive things that you're going to bring in from building and growing this business, rather than letting those little self-doubt and fear moments kind of take charge. They can be there. They're going to be there. We're human. But saying, okay, you're there, but I'm not going to follow you. This is the path that I'm on. So it's a little bit of that feel the fear and do it anyway kind of vibe of, you know, it's okay to be scared. It's okay to have feelings about running a business. But anyone can do it. You know, honestly, anyone can do it. It is 100% possible. And you are someone, so you can definitely do it. And whether it's growth that you're looking for this year, whatever the goal is, we're going to move forwards and we're going to move towards it, and we're going to do it together. And it's going to be awesome and fun. So they are my 10 things. They are mine. I would love to hear any of yours. Do come and share with me over on social media. I'm on Instagram at Jewelers Academy, or on Facebook. If you've listened to the podcast, if you found it helpful, come let me know. I always love hearing from you. And I have a few things coming up that I wanted to share about in line with this podcast. First of all, I'm running a free session this week on Wednesday at 8 p.m, which is London time in the UK, but you can watch the replay if you like, or come along live. It's going to be fun to come along live, so I would encourage you to do that. And it is about how to grow a jewelry business in 2025. So this is going to be aimed at people who already have a business, who've perhaps been running it for a year or two, and are really looking for some growth this year. So we're going to be focusing on growth-based topics. And I'm going to share a little bit more about the Jewellery Business Academy inside that session as well. And then, like I said, the deadline to sign up for Jewellery Business Academy this year is this Friday. So do go ahead and check it out and get signed up if you would like to spend the year together growing that jewelry business. A Wednesday session, I will also put a link to the show notes. So do come along. It's going to be good fun, and we're going to be doing some training together. So hopefully you've got some tips from this podcast. We're going to kind of follow on the training there, and then we move into the Business Academy and just do some great stuff together this year. So wonderful. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing you back here with another episode very soon. Bye for now.